So why don't we go ahead and get going here, Chris?
Okay, let's call the closed session to order.
Oh, wait, we need to call the meeting to order.
Oh, let's call the meeting. Oh, we're not in closed session, or are we?
Nope,
Not
we
yet.
are not.
Okay. Let's call the meeting to order. Welcome, everyone. May we have a roll call, please?
Director Sisenya.
I'm here.
Director Gatchell.
Here.
Director Ohilsky. Vice President Fourcroy.
I'm here.
President Womack.
Present. All right, Ron, do you take it from here?
I do. We have one general action item before we go to closed session, and it's to adopt a resolution authorizing remote teleconference meetings. The reason we have to do this as a general discussion item is it's been more than 30 days since our last meeting. Typically, we've been doing this on our consent calendar. So with that, I'll turn it back over to the board.
All right, does the board have any questions or comments? It makes sense to me. Let's open it up for public comment.
If you'd like to make a public comment, please raise your hand. There is no public comment at this time.
Okay, bringing it back to the board. Any further discussion or comments?
Other than how crazy this is, 2 years in, but it's where we are.
I'm hopeful we're almost done.
Yeah.
This
Seems
last
like we said
Omicron
that
wave.
last January. We said that last January.
And then it kind of was done and then it wasn't. Oh, well. Do I hear a motion?
I move that we adopt resolution 2022-01 to re-ratify the proclamation of a state of emergency and reauthorizing remote teleconference meetings.
Thank you, Chuck.
I'll second that.
Thanks, Troy. All in favor? Oh, let's roll call vote, please.
Thank you. Director Sisenya.
Yes.
Director Gatchell.
Yes.
Vice President Fourcroy.
Yes.
President Womack.
Yes. All right. Next, we have a closed session item. Do you want to present that, Ron?
I'll let our counsel, Mr. Minry.
Oh,
Okay.
even better.
Following public comment on closed session, the board will adjourn to closed session on pursuant to Government Code 54956.91. This is conference with District Council regarding one litigation matter, Young versus Cal Fire.
All right.
And so we need public comment on that, correct?
Thank you.
Correct.
All right. Yeah, let's open it up for, do we have any questions? Does the board discuss or no?
No, just public comment.
Okay, open it up for public comment.
If you'd like to make a public comment, please raise your hand. There is no public comment at this time.
Okay. Oh, so I bring it back to the board. Do we need another link for?
No, we'll stay on this link. We'll have a different link for the 6 o'clock open session.
Yes, I'm going to go ahead and lock it. So this way nobody can come in and then I will log off.
Okay. All right.
But I
Sounds
need
good.
to do it. Is it adjourned to closed session?
It is.
Thank you. Give me 1 second, I'll get it squared away.
Thanks.
All right, I'm logging off. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, we are officially in closed session. I'll just kind of kick it off here. It's interesting, I was looking back, it was a year ago.
It might still be recording.
Oh.
Can I see real quick? I'm so sorry.
It is recording.
So can I get you to go over to more here? So sorry, everybody. And then, oh, no. Oh, stop recording right there in the center. Thank you. Sorry about that.
Well, I would suggest we get going here, Chris.
Chuck
Okay.
just
I
got
was
here too.
thinking.
Yeah,
Okay.
we're all here.
All righty. Let's bring it back from closed session. And Jeff, can you do the report out of closed session?
Of course, the report out of closed session is no reportable action.
All right. Thank you.
Mhm.
All right, next order of business is board officer election.
Yes, I just have a couple of slides here to kind of queue up what we're doing. I took this out of our bylaws and rules of decorum, the board bylaws and rules of decorum, that the board vice president shall become the board president the following year after his or her election, barring a 4/5 vote to preclude said promotion. And next slide, please. Because of the pandemic, if you recall, last year, typically we do a paper ballot for elections. Last year, because we were in remote meetings like we are tonight, we went by roll call instead for the vote. And so I'm suggesting that we follow the same protocol this year. And then once the election is complete, then our new president will take over leading the meeting. And with that, I'll turn it back over to you, Chris.
All right, that sounds good to me, unless anyone has any comments. I think it's great to do the vote by roll call like last year. So do we start with voting for president, or are we voting for
Yes.
vice president?
Start with the president. Like I said, I think last year we did do nominations, but according to the bylaw, it's really if anyone objects to our vice president moving.
Hey, welcome, Marshall.
Hello, I'm sorry I missed.
You didn't miss a lot. Welcome.
I'm sorry I'm late.
Okay, go ahead, Ron.
So anyway, we can start with the president, and like I pointed out from the bylaws, unless there's an objection by 4 of the board members of our vice president moving forward. So I think you can just call that question if you'd like, Chris.
Well, President Womack, you may want to, you're going to need to take public comment. So you could either do it now, or you could do public comment for president and vice president. It's your prerogative.
Oh, I could do comment for both?
You could
or-
do that. You could do
let's
that
just-
now, or you could do that independently.
Oh, let's do it independently. All right, let's open it for public comment for the position of president.
If you'd like to make a public comment and you're on your phone, *9. If you're on your computer, please raise your hand. There's no public comment at this time.
Well, do we nominate, or is it just assumed?
Well, again, you could call the question saying, is anyone opposed? Because it takes a 4/5 vote to not move the vice president forward.
I nominate Matthew Forquay for president. So there's no 4/5 because that would be all of us.
If you need a second, I'll second it.
All right. Do we vote, or does anyone want to throw their hat in the ring, which I suspect they don't? All right, let's just call a roll call vote.
President Womack,
Yes.
Director
Matthew.
Ohilsky,
Yes.
Director Sesenya,
Yes.
Director Gatchell,
Yes.
Vice President Forquay.
Yes.
I had to think about that. Does Matthew take over now, or?
No, we'll have him take over after we do the vice president election.
Okay. Great. All right,
So you
do
can,
I hear?
you
Go
can
ahead.
take public comment on that now if you'd like, or.
Oh, okay. We'll take public comment on the vice president.
If you'd like to make a public comment for the Vice President and you're on your phone, *9. If you're on your computer, please raise your hand. There is no public comment at this time.
All right. Do I hear a nomination for vice president?
I'd like to nominate Director Sesenya.
All right. Sounds good. Do I hear a second?
I'm sorry. Could you repeat? I didn't hear what he said. I'm sorry.
He nominated Chuck.
Oh, okay.
I would second it.
I guess I wonder if we have a procedural thing. We do for vice president up to president. And the goal is to try and get everyone to be participating in the top levels of the the district meetings. And I guess I'm just wondering, Marshall, how long's it been since you've been vice president, or I don't know. Is anybody keeping track of that kind of thing?
You know, Chuck, the thing that's gonna be different next year is with the voting from the districts.
No.
That's gonna change this whole thing around because that will be the next time. But yeah, I think you were vice president before I was vice president, or you were president before I was president. So as far as timing, I would be next in lieu of you, but I don't think that matters at this point, right, to tell you the truth.
Yeah, we have a bit of uncertainty, yeah, coming up.
Well, I think either of you make a terrific vice president. So to me, it's more who wants to serve.
Well, if Chuck doesn't want to, I will be willing to. I mean, it's really, Chuck, you were nominated, so it's up to you.
Well, I'm not going to refuse a nomination.
Okay, well, I think Matthew could have who he wants as vice president. So I'll second that.
Oh,
Chuck.
Troy already seconded it.
Oh, okay. Shall we take a vote?
Wait, I was gonna make a nomination, quite frankly.
Okay.
I was gonna nominate Christine as vice president.
No. But thank you.
We'll see if there's a second, because I think, you know, passing it down to younger people at this point makes sense. So that's why I was gonna go with you.
Yeah, but I did a run, so I think it's fine. I think it's you know, you or Chuck would be next, and then you know, Troy, we might throw you in there next year.
Yeah, I
Is
think
what
getting a
I'm
second
thinking.
year under my belt would be helpful for me.
Yeah.
Well, if you're gonna refuse a nomination, then fine, I'll go with Chuck.
Do we need public comment on this?
We already took public comment.
Oh, we did. Okay.
We just didn't let them know who we're choosing. I didn't really know. So shall we now take a vote?
Vice President Fourcroy,
Yes.
Director Gatchell,
Yes.
Director Sesenia,
Yes.
Director Ohilsky,
Yes,
President Womack.
Yes. Thank you, both of you.
you're welcome.
So I will hand the gavel over to Matthew.
I got it.
All right.
All right. Well, thank you, Chris. Thank you for the whole last year. You've done a great job in all of your dedicated service. I know it takes extra time, so really appreciate everything that you've done.
Thank you. I appreciate you, and I appreciate Chuck going again with being vice president. So
Yeah, so here we go in a new year. So we didn't really say that quite yet, but Happy New Year, everyone. We're going to start off. Our next agenda item is our presentation for our 2020-2021 audit report. And I think Mr. Munns has a presentation for us.
Yes, I do. Thank you very much. And welcome aboard, Matthew. Tonight, I'm going to do a brief presentation. As you know, we changed auditors this year. We went with Fetchter and Company. Our principal auditor was Sandy Supp, who's with us tonight to answer any questions. We had a very successful audit. It was a great transition, and I really appreciate Sandy's help and participation with us this year. I just have a few things to point out from the audit, and then I'll turn it back over to the board for any questions for myself or Sandy. So basically, at the end of the fiscal June 30th, the end of our last fiscal year, the district was able to report positive balances in both district as a whole and as for its separate governmental and business type activities. This is a sign of the health of our finances right now. The total assets and deferred outflows for resources of the district exceeded its liabilities, which is another good indicator. by about $11 million. Next slide, please. Here are basically the statement of activities that are in the audit report in my letter of summary of the audit and our activities. I think the key ones here are overall operations showing a statement of activities of increased net position of about $1.2 million. Our revenues were increased in several areas, including water service, property tax, which are very important to us. The only downside was our investment income decreased by about $89,000 from the prior year, but that was expected based on the low interest rates. Next slide, please. And of course, for staff, this was a statement that means so much to us. Basically, that they didn't find or identify any deficiency in internal controls that were considered material weaknesses, and did not identify any deficiencies in internal controls described in the accompanying schedules of findings that they considered significant. So that's always
Patricia,
a
Patricia.
vote of confidence. And finally, we did take this to our Finance Advisory Committee that did recommend that the board receive and file the 2020-21 final audit report as presented. And with that, we can answer any questions.
Ron, I know we had a new auditor this year.
Yes.
How was that process compared to last year? Because I know we had the same auditor for many years and we kind of had that routine down.
It was different in that, of course, bringing in a new auditor, they had to understand our processes. And so, of course, that was a lot of extra work for our staff to go through. But on the flip side, it was really good for staff to go through it in terms of processes, being able to articulate it in writing to the auditor of how our business activities work. And then, of course, with new eyes on it, I know Adrian, our accountant bookkeeper, our contract accountant bookkeeper, felt she learned some things from Sandy in terms of how to account for certain things in our financials that will help us in the future. So I'd say overall, it was a great transition. Of course, there's a little more work up front, but we did that work this year, and we are under contract with the company for another 2 years after this. So we'll have 3 years with them.
Great. Yeah, I thought that was a good move we did there. Does anybody on the board have any questions or comments?
I was happy with how the audit went, and I know Adrian said she was a little leery of it, but she thought it was a great experience. So I just thought I'd share that.
How did FAC respond to it?
I think they liked it. I think a lot of people on FEC know the value of, switching auditors and having a fresh set of eyes. So I think they were in favor of it.
Plus, a lot of the FAC members remember when we were having issues with our audits. So they appreciated that as well.
I would just say appreciate all the staff's work and Ron, your work on this as well. Thank you.
Well, I have to really commend, the staff, the office staff really worked hard. So thank you.
All right, let's open this to public comment.
If you'd like to make a public comment, please raise your hand. There is no public comment at this time.
Okay, do anybody have a motion to make to receive and file the audit report?
Oh my goodness, I can make motions now. I make a motion that we receive and file the audit report.
I second that.
Okay, can we have a roll call, please, Laura?
Director Womack,
Yes.
Director Gatchell,
Yes.
Director Ohilsky,
No,
Director
I'm sorry. I was muted unfortunately, so I vote yes.
Vice President Susenia,
Yes. Excuse me,
President
yes.
Forkroy.
Yes. Okay.
And I want to thank Sandy for being here tonight to answer any questions. Thank you, Sandy, and look forward to working with you in the future.
Oh, you're welcome. And thank you for everything. And thank your staff as well. They're all very helpful. Thank you.
Matthew, can I just make a comment because I was muted and I didn't know it?
Sure. Yep, we couldn't hear you.
Yeah, I just wanted to say changing auditors, and then having them agree with the previous audit, I think is an important step with our audit. So I wanted to thank staff for the fact that the auditors agreed with the previous audit and there was no substantial issues. So I'm sorry I was on mute before, but that's what I'm trying to say.
Okay, thank you, Marshall. Okay, we're going to move on to.
Good night, Sandy. Thank you.
Okay, good night. Thank you.
We're going to move on to agenda item 8A, which is to adopt resolution establishing our voting districts that we talked about the last several meetings. So Ron, can you kick us off your presentation?
Okay, again, I'll just quickly step through a few slides here. For background, of course, we started this whole process back in January 2021. Then we moved into the actual public hearings to get to tonight. We had 2 pre-map public hearings held in August and September. Then we had hearings where we reviewed multiple maps in October and November. Next slide, please. Then at our December 2nd meeting, the board reviewed 2 final maps, map 2A and map 3. And at that meeting, the board selected the revised map 3, which we named 3A, and directed us to bring back the final map for adoption tonight. Next slide. Just for a quick review, this is map 3A, which is part of the agenda packet and the resolution. And finally, the next slide, please, is the recommendation that we have before you tonight.
Great, thanks, Ron. Yeah, as you can see, 3A made that little move around Morro Shores like we asked. So thank you to Mr. Bishop. Really appreciated your help last meeting, definitely. And yeah, I guess my 2 cents on it are that we really are just one community. And yeah, I really believe that this map is going to be the least disruptive to governing our district going forward. So with that, any comments, questions from the board?
I guess this is Chuck. I just want to make sure we don't have to do this. It looks like it's the safest thing to do. I want to make sure about where the staff recommendation comes from, that kind of thing, because I know that that many municipalities and then areas received the letter that we did. I just want to make sure that we're determined that we need to do this.
Good question. Maybe that's councilmanary.
Thank you, President Fourcroy, directors of the board. Yes, to be in compliance with the California Voters' Rights Act, you do have to move forward with this action. So I would recommend that your board move forward. It's been a process. You've considered all options and gone through 6 hearings. So yes, I would advise that you go ahead with the districting process.
Okay, do we have any other comments or questions?
I guess a question, if down the road, like the Santa Monica court case comes favorable, are we allowed to go back to at-large at a later point in time?
Depending on how the law shifts, if in fact Santa Monica does have an impact, and I am tracking that case, there's no new information at this point. But yes, I will bring alternatives back to your board should the law shift in that direction.
Okay.
Thank you for that question, Troy. That was kind of the corollary that yeah, it needed to go along with mine.
Certainly. Okay, I'm going to open this to public comment.
If you'd like to make a public comment and you're on your phone, please dial *9. And if you're on your computer, please raise your hand. All right, Tom, you just have to unmute yourself.
Hello, I spoke at the last meeting and I'm just going to chime in this meeting and say I still do not think map 3A, the one chosen, is representative of Los Osos' community. That is all.
Okay, thanks for that comment.
There's no further public comment at this time.
Thank you, Laura. I'll bring it back to the board. Do I have a motion to adopt our resolution?
Chuck, or pardon me, Matthew, I'm just gonna state my opinion again, if that's okay.
Yeah, go for it.
I don't believe that it's necessary for us to adopt special districts because I think it's contrary to the law about community interest, similar to the what the Board of Supervisors did for the supervisory district. So as I voted last time, I'm still going to vote no because I believe that this thing does not address the idea of special community interest. So I just wanted to put that on the record.
Thanks, Marshall. That's maybe a new comment. I haven't heard that from you before. Okay. Is there a motion to adopt our resolution?
I'll move that the board, one, adopt resolution number 2022-2, which establishes voting districts for the board of directors, and two, direct staff to work with the district consultant, cooperative strategies, and the county elections office to have the districting map integrated into the county-wide voting system.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Laura, can you do a roll call for us?
Director Womack,
Yes.
Vice President Susenia,
Yes.
Director Gatchell,
Yes.
Director Ohulski,
No.
President Fourcroy.
Yes. Okay. Yeah, thank you again for all your work, Mr. Bishop, and Ron and Laura and staff. I know this has been a really long process here for the last 6 meetings, I think. So
we want to make a special thank you to Mr. Bishop. He's actually not feeling well tonight, but made the meeting just in case we needed him. Thank you.
yeah, appreciate your help.
Of course, thank you, guys.
All right, moving along to public comment for items not on this agenda.
If you'd like to make a public comment, please raise your hand. All right, Andrea, you just have to unmute yourself.
Good evening. Are you able to hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Excellent. Andrea Luker, 34-year resident of Los Osos. I just wanted to express my thanks and gratitude for all those who arranged, planned, participated in, and cleaned up after the incredible Los Osos Christmas parade. And a special shout out to the Chamber. What an event. It seemed like the crowds were especially epic this year. Nice job to all who were there in any manner. Definitely the best holiday parade in the county. Thank you and have a good rest of your meeting.
Thanks, Andrea.
There's no further public comment at this time.
Okay, that moves us into administrative and committee reports.
Wait, can I make a comment?
Yeah.
I'd just like to, I know Marshall did a whole lot of work as a member of the chamber to make that happen. And so thank you, Marshall. It was really wonderful to do something normal again.
Yes, thank you very much. I appreciate your thanks. Yeah, we really appreciated the crowds that we had for the parade. So it was really a step back towards normalcy.
All right, I'm done, Matthew.
Okay, thank you. Moving to administrative and committee reports, we're going to start tonight with our fire department report. Do we have somebody from the fire department? Yes, we do.
Hey guys, Danny Chesick here, one of the captains over at the fire station. I'm filling in for Chief Province, who's on vacation right now. The activity report for the reporting period, as you can see, we ran about 120 calls. Majority of those were medical aids, a few traffic collisions. We had 2 incidents for fires, a couple hazardous conditions, several public assists, some false alarms. We had to do callback for company 15 2 times during the reporting period. We're still dealing with the COVID-19 pandemic and adjusting our approaches to medical aids, you know, with our PPE and whatnot. Moving on to the special projects. Chief Province and I were successful in getting the CAL FIRE Regional Fire Assistance Grant approved, and we've started purchasing already. We will be hosting here at the station an event. It's called Sidewalk CPR, and the idea is to get the community kind of educated on a hands-only CPR approach. And it's kind of an organic approach, just walking around the neighborhood, and that's the hope that we'll do, is right out in front of the fire station and try to get folks taking walks and riding bikes and whatnot. We continue to accept reserve firefighter applications and can be turned in at the fire station. We were very, very successful in the toy and food drive because of the community. I had to call several, just me had to call several times for toys and food to be picked up during the holiday season. So it was very successful here at the station. Kind of took over the front office. And then lastly, we were able to participate in the holiday parade. I believe we had to break away for a couple incidents right when we got in line. But I think Santa Claus did make it to the end of the parade on one of our apparatus. So end of report for our end.
Thank you. Does anybody have any questions from the board?
I guess I do. So are you seeing a lot more COVID? I'm taking it. Can you give more details, or is that people's privacy?
Well, I think countywide, we are seeing some upticks. It's kind of been essentially kind of business as usual, almost for like the last 2 years. So we're still taking all the precautions and being pretty vigilant when we go in on our medical aids and responding to our traffic collisions and whatnot. But yeah, there certainly are a lot of people getting sick out there right now.
Well, I'm glad you're trying to keep everybody healthy and be careful out there.
I had a question about the new fire engine. Has that been put into service yet? Do you know where we're at with that?
So that is still down in Rialto. It's very close to being finished with fabrication work for mounting tools and equipment. And it's expected very, very soon. I would imagine within the month, but that's what I know about it right now. Yes.
Okay, thank you. Okay, any other questions from the board? Okay, let's move on to the sheriff's report. I don't think the sheriff is here tonight. Let's move to CHP report.
Hello guys, can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, how's it going? I'm Jason Grimm, I'm the lieutenant here. I'll be standing in for Greg tonight. We had a total of 5 DUIs this month of December and 8 collisions. I'll go through them one by one and give out their locations, time, and dates. The first one was on December 4th at around 6:45 p.m. and it was a DUI collision, minor injury, and that was at 9th Street at Los Osos Valley Roads. The next one was on the 9th at midnight, just after midnight, and that was at Doris and Mar Vista. That was also a collision. And then the rest are just regular DUIs, the other 3 remaining. That was Los Osos Valley Road at Buckskin. And that was on the 10th at about 4:15 p.m. And then Los Osos Valley Road at Turi. That was on the 29th at around 9 p.m. And the last one was on the 26th, out of order there, 9th Street at Santa Ynez. And that was around 9 o'clock at night as well. For our collisions, the first one was on the 2nd, and that was right at midnight. And that was a solo vehicle versus a curb. It looks like it was very, very minor. Another one on the 2nd, that was at about 7:15 p.m. It was a 2 vehicle at a LOVR at Foothill. And that was a 2 vehicle minor injury traffic collision. Looks like a rear ender, fender bender, fairly minor as well. The other on the 4th at about 6 p.m. we had a DUI hit and run. That was one of the previous DUIs mentioned. It was non-injury, and that was at LOVR at 9th Street. On the 6th, we had, looks like 3 in a row that were all kind of back to back around the same spot or in the same area. On the 6th, yeah, at 3:40, Paso Robles at 13th, vehicle versus bicycle. Luckily, it was a very minor injury. Same day, about 20 minutes later, LOVR at Via Vista, 2 vehicle non-injury collision, another fender bender, very minor. And same date, 4:41, same location, about a few minutes after, 2 vehicle non-injury collision after that as well. Then on, I'm sorry, was your question?
Oh, no, just thank you for going through those.
Yeah, then we have one of the previous DUIs was a vehicle rollover, minor injury, thankfully. It was a rollover vehicle into 2 parked vehicles. Thankfully, only a minor injury. That was on the 8th at around 1:45 midnight, 11:45. Doris at Mar Vista. Another 2 vehicle minor traffic collision in the Ralph's parking lot on the 29th at 2:30. And then our last one was going to be on the 29th, also around 8:30 p.m. LOVR at Turi. And that was one of the other DUIs, actually. Looks like the rollover one. So, and that's all we have.
Okay, thank you. One of the questions that came up to me lately was about the speed trailer that you guys have. And if people can request places for that to be, or is that something you guys put out and you have some strategy behind that? And is there public input involved with that?
Absolutely. These forums like this is a perfect venue for that. So yeah, if you have a few locations that you'd like to suggest, what I'll do is I'll take your suggestions. I'll go out and review them myself tomorrow or early next week. And then after speaking with the captain, we'll see if those are viable locations for us. And yeah, hopefully get them deployed there. What are your recommendations?
The one that keeps coming up to me is from different parents, and they're just really concerned about, there's a lot of kids at the skate park. They like to go across over to either the gas station or over towards Ralph's, and that 9th Street LOVR intersection seems to be a problematic spot where kids are having a lot of close calls with folks speeding through there and trying to hit the light and hang right or
okay.
whatever. So that's the input I'm getting, and I'd like to pass that on.
Any other locations that you can think of?
Not for me. Does anybody on the board have anything to add with that, or any questions?
Anyone familiar with the Paso Robles at 13th? That's where the bicycle collision was. Is there any other issues there, or is that a kind of an isolated incident?
I'm not familiar with that intersection at all, really.
Okay. Hopefully it was an anomaly then. Yeah, good.
Yeah, I hope so too. That'd be good. But yeah, I know, since school's been out, the kids have been out and about, so during the day, which is a little different. So yeah, I appreciate it. Thank you for participating.
I would say the only other area would be like 7th Street when you're going to Ramona towards Baywood Park and stuff. pretty fast and you get down towards Baywood Elementary.
Okay, I'll check that out.
Four-way stop there, but 7th Street itself going down that way is pretty fast.
7th at Ramona heading towards Baywood Elementary. Okay,
Yeah.
I'll do that tomorrow. Okay, awesome. Anything else?
Anybody else? No? Okay, well, thank you again. I appreciate you guys coming. Thank you.
Thank you guys. Appreciate it. Have a great night.
Okay, moving on. We'll get right to the general manager report.
Thank you very much. As I like to do, I wanted to circle back just real quickly on my on our utilities department updates. Really didn't have much through December, just the time of the year and the season. But today we had our kickoff meeting for the 16th Street South Tank Rehab and Recoding project. We're really excited. Pass Robles Tank is our primary contractor, and they indicated that they're actually going to start some work tomorrow and have the project completed by March 1st. They had until March 31st to complete it. So it's one of the few projects we're going to get underway and completed hopefully in advance of the deadline schedule, or the schedule we thought we would have. So anyway, that's good news for us. Moving over to my general manager's report, I just wanted to report out that, San Luis Obispo County, pretty much at the request of the Basin Management Committee, has started a water conservation study that will look at their water offset program. They chose a great consultant, Madaus Consulting. They're a firm that's been around for a long time, based out of Sacramento. I'm very familiar with, so I'm hopeful we get a great product from them. And the other hope for us is that from the outcome of the study, it'll help guide us on how maybe we revamp our water conservation program. Project schedule on that is they're underway right now with data collection, and they're hoping to have a draft out to BMC staff in March and hopefully wrap it up by the end of March. So that will come to fruition very quickly as well. As you know, Laura hasn't announced her departure, so I'm taking every public opportunity to one, thank her, but also say, because she'll be leaving mid-February, maybe late February, depending on the timing of her move, but that we are seeking candidates for that position. All the information is on our website, and the job opening closes on January 14th, so we're encouraging qualified candidates to apply. And then finally, I always want to end on the drought reminder. With all the rain, people are tending to think, oh, the drought might be over. It's improved. As a matter of fact, out here in our area, it's down to a moderate drought as opposed to severe just a month ago. But we want people to remember, turn off your irrigation, look for leaks. It's still imperative that we conserve water in our community. And with that, I can answer any questions.
Thank you, Ron. Any questions from the board?
I don't have a question, but I have a comment. Like, I'm glad to hear that we could get some more accurate measurements of our water offsets. I think that's great. Will be greatly appreciated. And Laura's going to be sorely missed. She has such outstanding organizational skills. I think we were really lucky. So I'm glad we still got her for a bit longer, but yeah, we'll miss her.
This is Marshall. I'd like to agree with exactly what Chris just said.
Agree. Thank you, Laura, for all your work.
We still have one more board meeting at least with her, and a few committees.
And a going away party.
Oh, right on.
Okay, I'm going to move on to the Parks and Rec committee meeting report. We met on December 14th. We really only had one agenda item, which was to work on the dog park. And very shortly before that meeting, Ron was successful in getting us an update on the parking requirements. and it looks like we are going to be able to do with less parking than originally planned, which opened up some space. So our discussion really started out revolving around a community garden proposal that had come up kind of through the fall, I would say. I think our previous meeting had been in October, kind of between October and December. And we had some public comment. We had a good discussion with the committee. Ultimately, the committee decided that they wanted to focus on just getting a dog park put in and let a community garden be a potential thing for the future. At that point, we started talking about the details of the arrangement in the park and the surfaces. And ultimately, what is going to happen is we're going to update our preliminary site plan. And it looks like the Wallace Group has some more volunteer hours that we're going to be able to utilize to do that. And that was the report from the meeting. Our next committee meeting will be February 15th. And I urge anybody who's interested in the dog park to participate, and we'll keep moving that project along. Any questions about Parks and Rec?
Matthew, this is Chuck. I have one, and I did attend that last Parks and Rec meeting. It was a good one, good discussion about surface and all kinds of things. And but one thing I think I should have asked probably at that meeting, the reduction in parking spaces, how did that all come about? How are we going? I mean, how many did we start with? What are we reducing it to? I guess being an advocate for the community center and knowing how busy that parking lot is, I'm just wondering where the reduction in needed parking came from.
I can answer that. You know, I inquired with Carrie Brown. I think many of you are familiar with Carrie. She's the primary planner for Los Osos for the county. She was talking that they really don't have a parking requirement in the regulations for dog parks. And so, you know, I was trying to apply, you know, it was like they got for skate parks, you know, like skateboard parks, they have them for different things. Long story short, she determined that there could be some shared parking with the community center parking lot. Since that's shared with the Red Barn, it's shared with the skateboard park, and it's shared with the park as well as the community center. So we were able to take her recommendation and downsize it. I think we're going to end up with either 7 or 8 spaces over there, as opposed to, I think we had over 20 in the original. So basically, it'll be limited parking to the very west side of the dog park. It'll take up that front over there. We were able to eliminate it down the north side over by the church.
And actually, people park at the community center parking lot to walk their dogs now in the park. So,
Right.
You know, it'll go either way. I just wondered, 20 is a lot. That sounded like a lot of spaces.
Right. And, you know, there'll be street parking there as well. So, you know, some
Thankfully,
people
it's back.
Yeah, people aren't going to want to walk all the way from the community center over there.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, and it's paper money right now because it's all on paper, but that's a big cost reduction to eliminate those parking spots. So, yep. Any other questions?
I'll make a comment. I'm excited that the Parks and Rec committee is, you know, back looking at it, and I'm excited to have a dog park in our community. So thank you for your work.
Yeah, definitely. Ron was busy this last month on dog park issues for sure. Okay, moving on. Utilities report, please.
You know, I don't really have much to add. The projects are moving along. Ron updated us on the most critical thing, I guess, the new thing. I would add that we've finally added 2 new members to the committee. We are up to 5 full committee members, which will be nice. It's down to 3. It was tight it's just hard to expect those 3 people to be at every meeting all the time. And because you certainly want a certain amount of input from your committees. And so we're finally fully staffed and are fully up to status. And I'm happy about that.
One of the things I wanted to add about that, Chuck, I was trying to figure out the right place to talk about it, but in that meeting, we got to see the capital projects, you know, out into the future, the planned capital projects. And, you know, in conversations, we had that conversation in the meeting, but just escalation in costs of materials, cost of labor, some of those numbers won't be as accurate going forward. So that those could come as a little bit of a sticker shock on some of those projects when we actually get to them.
Yes, I agree. And that was a wonderful update on the whole capital improvements plan. Some of those projects certainly have been around a long time, the tying up the loose ends on the distribution system, that kind of thing. We're due to be looking at a rate structure review. So all of that, updates on project costs, the update on the rate structure, all of that will be taking place over the next year or so, and both will occur in a timely manner, coincidentally. And yeah, that was a nice overview of everything. I'm really happy with the way we've been able to take the strange things that come at you, the 10th Street voodoo well, and just different things that keep coming, and we keep rolling with it, and seem to keep our head above water very well. And so, yeah, I'm happy about that. And I'm happy that that fire truck will be here. Someday I want to ride on that truck in the Christmas parade. That's another story.
I think you got to be Santa Claus, Chuck.
No, Chuck Sneed's got that wrapped up pretty well.
Yeah, you can't play Santa Claus, but you can ride in the fire truck.
I can be an elf.
All right, do you have any other questions for Chuck on utilities? Okay, let's move to FAC, please.
Okay, I believe we recommended approval of the investment policy and to receive and file the financial reports for the period ending November 30th, 2021. I think that is pretty much it. And our next meeting is January 31st. So we're the first Monday before the next meeting. So sometimes it's the last Monday of the month, and sometimes it's the first Monday of the month.
Chris, I wanted to add to that as the vice chair of that meeting that I think that committee is working very, very well as far as the financial aspects of it. And they really appreciate the way the financial reports have been presented by staff.
Thanks for adding that, because actually it's a fantastic committee. I'm so glad to have each and every one of them. So that's a good thing to mention.
Well, I'm sorry. I just wanted to point that out. Thank you.
I'm glad
I
you
would like
did.
to add, I'll add into that because I was around when we had an audit that resulted in a phone call from the county auditor. And so to be able to transition to a new auditor and just have no flags waving, no questions asked, that was a big deal in itself. You know, they say change is good, and it is, but it's not always easy. But thank you to staff for working hard through that. And it's just, yeah, it's nice to have confidence in that side of our house.
Yeah, and the amount of detail, Christine, that committee goes into as far as the warrants and the financial reports, I think is very, very helpful as far as the audits that Chuck just discussed.
Yeah, it's a great to have extra sets of eyes looking at our warrants every time.
Yeah,
And
I agree.
I have to say, Renee did a lot of work, and Adrian, to improve our financials. And I feel like Ron and Laura have just polished it to a perfection, like that you really get a sense from the FAC committee meeting notes of, you know, where we're standing financially, and they've added tables so we kind of see how it changes over time. And it just when I first started, it was kind of hard to figure out what was going on. I feel like a lot of times there's no questions because it's just so plainly stated. So the staff has a lot to do with how smooth things are running. And I appreciate them.
Yeah, well, Christine, I wanted to thank both you and staff for their efforts.
Thank you. You
And
too,
Adrian-
Marshall.
And Adrian.
Yes, Adrian's pretty amazing.
Yeah, great job. Great job there by all, definitely. Okay, I'm gonna move us to.
And before we move on, I have a couple questions on the investment policy.
Sure, go
document.
for it.
So I was reviewing that. I was seeing if the committee has looked at alternative savings accounts. You're looking at 0.01% interest, which is your standard brick and mortar bank. If we've looked at options around other high interest savings accounts that usually are in the 0.5% range that are still under FDIC insured. I know the Federal Reserve is indicating rates increases, but these money markets are not going to move a whole lot. And I was just seeing if we would evaluate a couple other alternatives. They're probably not local banks, but they are FDI. And
yeah, I think in general, rates are really low just all around. And our top priority is safety and liquidity. Okay.
I would just offer that advice, maybe just to look. They're all FDIC insured banks.
Right. So what I was going to say is Julian did find that, like, we use LAIF sometimes, but the county also has a fund that we can get in. And I think he said that was 0.6. But it's also, do we want to take the work to go from 0.2 to 0.6, which is also not very much? Because that takes staff time, and how much money difference is it going to be? That $90,000 difference, like when we moved the money to Pacific Premier in 2018, we were getting like 2.25.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the difference between 2.25 and 0.2 is like the 90 grand. So, but to go from 0.2 to 0.6 and to make the staff do a lot of work,
I was just looking at the US bank funds. The redemption funds at 0.0001%.
Yeah. I think most of them are 0.02 or 0.2.
If it would be
that particular one, Troy, for your information, that US Bank one is really not controlled by us. It's controlled by US Bank. And I've been in conversations with our representative, and he's got some ideas about making it a little bit better, but like Chris was saying, it's not much.
Yeah.
And US Bank, they pay our bonds. Like that's right. Our bonds that we're repaying. So that's kind of the money that's set aside to pay our bonds. So that has to be, we don't really have as much discretion. Thanks for bringing that up, Ron. I knew that, but I didn't say that.
No, but I was going to say, Chris, based on the discussion we had at the committee meetings, not just the last meeting, but multiple meetings, the decision was made by that committee that it's just better to stay with what we have for the interim. And then if things change substantively, then we can relook at it.
Yeah, we'll look around.
Okay. But
even like 0.6 is not, I know it's 3 times as much as 0.2, but it's still not very much.
Well, no, Chris, I just want to let Troy know we had a substantive discussion about the differences, and we're going to look at it each month, or the committee is going to look at it each month as to when it's time to change things.
Yeah, makes sense. And then I guess on just a question on prohibitive investments, I think we're already probably covered over 0.4, but do we want to add in cryptocurrencies or anything like that?
No.
Prohibited. I said prohibited.
Prohibited. He did say prohibited.
Oh, okay. I'm like, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Oh, do you want to add them as a prohibited investment?
I'm sorry. I had to laugh too because Chris.
No,
Charlie
I think it's already
Munger,
maybe already covered probably in general, but I just didn't know if we wanted to add that in just to cover ourselves. I don't know.
No, I don't think it, Troy, at this point. I would say, based on what's going on and how staff is dealing with this and how the committee's dealing with this, I don't think we need to go to that step yet. We may in the future, but right now I don't think we do. I don't know what your opinion is, Chris, but that's my opinion as the vice chair.
Oh, well, Charlie Munger calls it trading turds.
Well, I know Charlie personally, but yes.
Oh, yeah.
Does that mean that the NFTs that we bought with utility department revenue last month, is it just?
Okay, I'm
Yeah,
sorry, I
no,
misunderstood. You
we
freaked me out
stay
a
out of
little
that.
bit.
Yeah.
I
I
just
think we've had
I guess,
enough discussion on this. Chuck.
yeah, I
Yeah.
guess I'm assuming that's inappropriate, we don't need to be specific, but I
Yes.
guess we'll see what municipality decides to buy Bitcoin.
Yeah, I think my opinion as the vice chair, Matthew, it's time to move on.
Yeah, let's do that. No, I do appreciate the questions, Troy, those in that discussion, because that's always an important thing to keep an eye on.
That was my last question anyways. So,
Okay, great.
And
Thank you.
and Troy, I do appreciate your comment about cryptos, but in number 4, before I would do any sort of moving of that type of cash or investment, it would go to the board. But we'll definitely keep that on the radar.
I'm just thinking for what we say we want is liquidity or safety and liquidity. And it just doesn't even meet our first criteria.
Right. We're just doing the best we can with what we've got. So it is what it is,
Yeah.
All right, let's move to any director announcements about anything community interest or attendance at public meetings, etc. Anybody have anything this month?
Oh, I went
Yeah.
to the tree lighting, but I was late. But
Yes, you were very late.
last time it lasted a lot longer.
I'm sorry. I apologize, Chris, but we held off until you got there.
Oh.
Yeah. So anyway, if I could, I have a couple of things, Matthew, if it's okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
First of all, Basin Management Committee, at our last meeting, which was in December 15th, we did approve the budget for the upcoming year. So that was our primary action at the last committee meeting. And then we'll be moving on to our first meeting in January to deal with the upcoming year. So I think things are moving along really, really well with the Basin Management Committee. We've had some issues, as Ron has mentioned, with ADUs and other water consumptive things, but since we don't have land use authority or we don't purvey any water, we did rely on the water purveyors to provide the letter about ADUs, and the district provided a letter, as did Golden State and Sunset Terrace. So that's what happened as far as the Basin Management Committee. And then I just wanted to add a little bit to the chamber report. We did have the tree lighting, which is our annual tree lighting at the corner of Palisades and Los Osos Valley Road. And we did not have as many people as we anticipated, but we did have the annual tree lighting, which was the first Friday in December. And then the parade was the next day, which is in our opinion anyways, as the organizers of the parade, was the best parade we ever had. And I think we have a multitude of people that agree with that. So anyways, I just wanted to pour those on to the discussion points here at this point, Matthew.
Okay, thank you. Does do you have more besides that, or is it just BMC?
No, BMC and the chamber. I just wanted to add that to the chamber. So that's
Okay,
it.
great. Anybody else have any announcements?
No, I just want to give a shout out to everyone who participated at the Needs and Wishes event, which happened after the parade at the community center. This year, they broke another record, over $50,000 raised in that one-day event that goes to the NOR Clinic and then Forty Prado, the homeless shelter. So that's a pretty good take for one day event. And
Nicely done.
it's community participation. It's a good time, and thanks everyone.
Yeah, and Chuck, the chamber appreciates working with you guys on the needs and wishes as far as making that a successful event. So we were publicizing that as part of the parade, at the end of the parade to go over to needs
Absolutely.
and wishes. So I
Make a
thought
day of
that
it.
very, very good cooperative effort this year.
I still want to ride on the fire truck someday.
I will let you do that as soon as, well, what happened this year in the parade. I don't know if you were there or not, but just before the fire trucks were going to start in the parade, there was an emergency called and they had to leave, but Santa got to stay in the parade, but the other two fire vehicles had to leave just before Santa started in the parade. So
always on duty.
Yep.
Their priorities.
It was kind of weird. The timing was weird, but it worked out for everybody's benefit.
All right, I'm going to move us on to 10M, which is appointments to our standing advisory committees and outside agency organizations by me. This is going to be pretty easy this year. This roster is going to remain unchanged. I talked to everybody, and everybody's happy with where they're at. So I guess what I really want to do is thank everybody that is attending and leading these committees, because I know it takes a lot of effort, but it's really, to me, we get a lot more time to discuss these issues at large with a broader audience, and I know I really appreciate it on the committee meetings that I get to participate in. So thank you to everybody. I'm guessing I have to call that out by name, or can I just say it remains unchanged?
I think that suffices.
Okay. Right.
Oh, can I ask a question?
Yeah.
To Ron, I think. So Matthew reminded me we were on Fire Safe Council. Did that just not meet last year? I totally forgot about that.
I really don't know. It's been one of those organizations that doesn't communicate with us or hasn't. So I'm not sure, but I can look into that.
Can I speak to that as being chair of the Emergency Services Committee?
Yes.
Fire Safe Council is really not, the CSD is really not a member of that per se, but I think that we can suggest that the CSD be involved more actively in the future, if that's what you would like us to do.
I think I was just asking if I missed something.
No, you didn't miss something, but I will bring it up at our next FAC meeting, or pardon me, not FAC, ESAC meeting.
Okay.
That we may want to get more involved, because we do have a number of our members on our committee who are actively involved in that, as Ron well knows that. So we'll bring that up. Is that okay with you, Mr. Munns?
Oh, absolutely. I think that's a great idea.
Yeah, because we know a couple of our members are actively involved in the Fire Safe Committee. So we'll just bring that up with them and see if we can be actively involved as the CSD, not just as them being members of our ESAC committee.
Oh, sounds good.
Okay, thank you, Chris.
I'm going to move on to 10N, which is appointment of board president for an ad hoc committee to review the board bylaws. I'd like to appoint myself and Chuck to go through the bylaws. And I believe we bring that back to the board next meeting.
Correct.
Okay. And that gets us to, I don't think we have any previously asked questions. Does anybody know of one I'm not thinking of?
No, we don't have any.
Okay, does anyone want to pull a consent agenda item?
Not I.
Not I.
Okay. Not hearing any, I'm going to move to public comment for items on the administrative committee reports and the consent agenda.
If you'd like to make a public comment, please raise your hand. There's no public comment at this time.
All right, thank you. Does anybody have a motion for me to
Yes,
receive? the committee
Matthew, I
reports?
have a motion to receive and file the committee reports and approve the consent agenda.
I'll second.
Okay, can we have a roll call, please?
You're muted. There you go.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Director Ohilsky,
Yes.
Director Womack,
Yes.
Director Gatchell,
Yes.
Vice President Sesenia.
Yes. Now, is that the first time that you've like muted yourself and not meant to? The first mistake?
I couldn't get my mouse over fast enough.
Okay.
President
wow.
Fourcroy.
Yes. Yes. Okay. Does anybody have any future agenda items they'd like to see? Okay, seeing that, any closing comments from the board?
Laura, we wish you well in your future endeavors in Texas, and we will just miss you terribly. But maybe you can keep in touch a little bit.
Thank you. I plan to help whoever replaces as long as they need the help.
Well, you shouldn't have said that, Laura, because that could be forever.
Remember my question about cloning? Is that a possibility?
But that all being said, Laura, we really, really do appreciate all the efforts that you have made for the district because you have made a significant difference.
Thank you. I appreciate that. It makes it easy that I work under a great general manager who helps make this very easy.
Team. It's a team.
Yeah. Well, thank you, everybody. Yeah, here we go again. Here's to 2022. Hope it's
Yes.
a good year for everybody. I'm going to adjourn our meeting. See you all next month.
Okay.
Good night, everyone.
Thank you.
Good
Night,
night.
everyone.
Thanks, everyone. Great meeting.
Enjoy.
Great job, Matthew.